Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, as always, with your host, Kurt Stockwell. Hello, sir.
Hello, Chris. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Holy smokes. Where did the 2019 go?
It's in the past. We're in a totally new decade.
I know. Do you remember when people would say things like 2020? In fact, wasn't there 2020 with Barbara Walters and like all this?
Yeah, right. You didn't think about, well, you know, I think we talked about this before, but Back to the future was like 4 years ago.
That's right. That's hilarious. Yeah. Time flies, man.
No flying cars yet.
It's crazy.
Come on, scientists. Get it together.
Yeah. Come on. Let's go. Well, what are we talking about today, Kurt? I mean, it's a new year. Like, let's go to work. Let's do some stuff.
Yeah. I'm ready. Let's work. Okay. So we're talking about the fact that the customer's not always right.
Yeah. Wait, what? They're not always right.
Right. The customer is not always right.
I really like this for a couple of reasons, but I feel like we've said the customer is always right has been a cliche now for so long that it's about time the pendulum swings the other way and sort of presents a counter argument to this. Like, yeah, it's not always right. Like, we all know that it can't always be right. But unpack that for me. Like, what do you mean the customer's not always right? In what context?
Well, when you are a professional and you're bringing your product or your service to someone, they've purchased your product or service. There's aspects of that product or service that we've talked about in the past where when we talked about kind of that whole storyline of recognizing who your customer is, the problem you're helping them solve, and you're guiding them to success and helping them avoid failure. What we're really talking about here today is helping your customer avoid failure. So in the sense of your customer is not always right, there's times where when you're delivering your product or service, you're helping your customer. Basically, you're keeping them from themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
They want to go down a certain path, and you're like, no, we don't want to do that. And here's why: because I'm helping you avoid failure. I've been doing this for however many years. I know what I'm doing. I understand what maybe you can kind of get into the point where you understand. I mean, really, that the goal of this conversation is when you understand what you help people avoid. Yeah, it's easier to have the conversation with the individual when they're wanting to go a direction that you as a professional know they shouldn't.
Right. I think there's people who don't know what they don't know about building websites. They don't know what they don't know about marketing, about whatever you listening to this product service you sell. Like, there's stuff they just don't know about it. And I've had this, I'm sure you've had this. They in all the best intentions, they go to dinner with their uncle or their family member or whoever who says, oh, this is what you should be doing with your website, or this is what you should be doing with your marketing. And then they come back to you and say, okay, so this is what I want to do. And you're like, head scratcher, like, what?
That came out of left field. Where did you get that? Oh, I was talking to my,
Right. Like, actually, that's what we did 10 years ago, but we don't do that anymore. Right. And they don't know that. They just, with all the best intentions to try to do what they think is best for themselves, they've gotten bad information a lot of times. That
example very much fits with my industry for sure. Right. We are a marketing agency that helps businesses find clarity in their messaging. One of the ways we deliver that is through a website. And we all use websites all day long, every day, but very, very few people actually understand what it means to create a website, or what's going on behind the curtain with the great and powerful Oz back there just making these websites work, right? We always kind of joke that the internet fairies are, making your website work. Or when people ask for things, we're like, do you think there's magical fairies out there that are doing this for free? But yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of people listening who you could think about one of the services that are kind of in your vertical or your industry where you're going, people have no idea what really goes on to make this thing work or to make this thing happen. Or, like, I'm thinking people who are in the construction or in construction or in the trades, when we use, things that we use in our home all day long, every day, it's hard to really understand the complexity of it.
Yeah.
And, as a professional, you're in some cases in their world, you're preventing them from death potentially, Right. But I think where customers get a little bristly with the conversation when you're like, no, you're wrong, is because it can often come across as a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are coming to me with a question or with wanting to change direction, and I'm coming back at you and saying, no, we're not going to do that.
Right.
Sometimes, as a deliverer of a product or a service, you can feel like they're challenging your character,
right,
or they're challenging your integrity, or depending on how your value. Right. Depending on how they're delivering their question to you about, hey, I want to change this or go in a different direction, or I want to, we're doing it wrong, we need to shift focus. That can make you feel like, wait a minute, you just said I don't know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing. And now my ego has risen up and I want to get into an argument. Right.
Right. Yeah. That's never wins on either direction, but
no, we want to prevent that.
Smooth that over? Like, I mean, or how do we, I guess the ideal option would be, how do we prevent it where the consumer is following? How do we prevent them thinking they know? And then how do we encourage them to follow our lead so that we don't have to get to the big ego clash?
Yeah. So, as you go through the life of your business, or if you go through the life of your practice or whatever you do, you're going to have those moments where you're like, oh, I never considered the fact that people might look at what we do or the product that we offer or the service that we offer in that way. I can see how they're confused.
Yeah.
The other thing that is you need to remember is most people out there are good people. Most people out there are not jerks, or not, wanting to just get behind kick you out of the cockpit and get behind the controls and fly a plane that they've never flown before, or they don't have a pilot's license and they're like, get out of the way, I know what I'm doing. Most people are not like that. Now, is preparing yourself to have the conversation of helping somebody avoid failure going to prevent you from every jerk out there? No. I mean, there's some people out there who are just difficult. But if you prepare yourself to have a conversation about the things that people would be confused about, and how you're helping them avoid failure, then you're likely to have more of a human conversation, more of a guide. You're guiding them. Again, this whole point of what we do is we're not the hero in the story, we're the guide. We're guiding them to a successful story. And one of the pieces of that is avoiding failure. So if you don't think through the things that you're helping your customers avoid, you'll never take the time to have this little mental dialogue of like, okay, when people are challenging me on this, how can I, in a human relational way, have a conversation with them about, no, this is really what we're helping you avoid. Hey, I understand where you're coming from on that. Many people think that, but like you said, that's something that we did that was very common 10 years ago. And that's not the case now. And here's why.
Right. I think one of the things that you guys do so well too is once you've identified those problems or those challenges, you guys have done a great job of front loading those kinds of expectations conversations into the onboarding of things. So whether it's talking about Basecamp, or it's talking about, or it's even your show, this show is discussing distinctions that you have about how we think about marketing and messaging and things. And a lot of that front loads how people come into your service. And I think most businesses don't do that. They kind of like, they're glad to get a client and they're like, sweet, let's go. But there was never a period of getting on the same page.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And the process that we take businesses through, where we start with, do you really understand who your customer is and what motivates them?
Right.
That's just a natural progression to this final piece of helping them avoid failure.
Right.
And that exercise really makes people think through the process of somebody using their product or service from the perspective of the customer. I think the longer you're in business, or the longer you're in an industry, the more likely you are to kind of forget what it's like to use your product, or what it's like to not understand your product.
Totally.
Especially if you have something where, like we do, we've got, we help businesses with, like I said, with websites. We have, with our phones and our laptops and stuff, we're online all day, every day, using this magical internet that nobody really understands. And when it's not working correctly,
right.
or it's not working correctly, potentially for your customers, that's a huge deal. It's almost kind of like you're getting your arm cut off, and so people get very agitated, or they get very excited, or very emotional about something that's going on with the service that we're providing. However, again, if we haven't kind of prepared for the conversations of helping them avoid the failure that they're wanting to kind of blindly walk into, then we most likely could get into a conversation where they feel like we're just being obstinate.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I feel like there's kind of two phases. There's like what you do before that the transaction commences or begins, like the relationship begins, to front load, like we said, the relationship and the expectations, distinctions, all that. And then there's sort of like the customer experience from the time they sign up through the rest of it. And I think as you go, as you choreograph both of those phases, there's an opportunity in all of it to demonstrate your authority, your credibility, so that they feel safe trusting you in the process rather than, I think people, that's when they get all squirrely, is when they feel like they don't know if you know more than them or not.
Or they don't know if you have their best interest in mind.
Right.
If you think about, your trusted physician or your trusted doctor or whatever, rather than just going to a random person,
right.
You're going to have more trust in the individual who's been with you for most of your life to say, hey, this is what I think, and this is what you should do, rather than just some random person, poking and prodding at who you are. So you're right. And when you start the entire process of communicating with your customer from the aspect of, hey, I understand you, when you do have these conversations about helping them avoid failure that they're wanting to walk into, they're talking more as a friend rather than a potentially an adversary.
Absolutely. One of the things that just popped up for me too, which is, again, just back to what I like about your service, is I think for businesses, thinking through the first phase, like leading up to a transaction, then the phase of like working them through the customer experience of it. I think sometimes it's hard to do that in your own fishbowl. And so what I love about the intake that you guys do and the conversations you have on the front end, and who are you talking to? Let's walk them through the SB7 framework. Like there's so much thought that goes into it that allows the business owner to think in a way they couldn't otherwise have thought about what their customer is going to need to really guide them. Because otherwise, without guiding them, they're going to feel like you're just an order taker. Here, do this for me. Here, do this for me. But if you're the guide, now they're actually following your lead. And that requires, I think, a little bit of upfront work, like what you guys do in your intake.
Yeah. So the process, again, that we take everybody through is that whole journey that your customer is going on when they work with you or acquire your product or acquire your service or kind of dig through your marketing, is this for me? Right. And when you're doing a good job of delivering your message in small bite-sized chunks that's consumable and memorable, man, they're ready to follow you anywhere before they even sign the contract almost.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, so good. I love it. Well, I would imagine people listening to this are interested in, being the guide, leading a conversation, not having their clients come in and be demanding and, have an ego clash, et cetera. If people wanted to reach out to you and have you walk them through some of the questions and conversations you have with people to get clear about that, how do they reach you?
Yeah, so you can go to clarifymymarketing.com, and there's a calendar tool there where you can select a time to just connect and have a conversation. Like I said, we do a lot of websites, but that's not the only thing that we do for folks. Often, actually, I've got quite a few clients now where we're not delivering any specific asset like a website or an email campaign. We're just going through this marketing clarity conversation so they can start to wrap their head around like, okay, this is how I need to think about talking to my clients.
Right.
And then we'll kind of let the dust settle and go, okay, where do you want to start? Where do you think is the best place to start with this kind of messaging for the most the quickest and the fastest ROI? Maybe it's not a website, maybe it's helping you prepare for a presentation that you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we've helped businesses like fix their PowerPoint or their keynote presentation, things like that. I just worked with a business last night that we helped them clarify their elevator pitch or their one-liner. It was an association of volunteers that has kind of a complex message, and they felt like we're really missing the mark when people ask, what do we do? So they brought me in for a private workshop, and in about an hour, we got the whole room on board with the same message, common message. Wow. So they're all saying the same thing. And when you get everybody on board with the same message, that's really powerful. So again, you can go to clarifymymarketing.com and learn more about what we do, and schedule a time to just have a simple conversation, no obligation.
So good. Wow. Love it. The customer is not always right, Kurt.
They're not. And you are required, really. I think you're required to give them the truth, and the truth many times is helping them avoid failure.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. Good stuff, man. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Thanks.
See you next time.
See you, Chris.